Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to ask you to please bring your conversations down to a whisper as we are getting ready to start our program. We're going to ask everyone that is standing, if there is not a seat for you, please ensure that you are not blocking the aisle. Martin Luther King Public Policy Forum with National Action Network. Let us now receive our president and founder, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton.
Come on, no justice, no justice, no justice, no justice. What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? When do we want it? When do we want it? Shake hands with the person next to you. Tell them you love them.
We love you, Reverend.
All right. All right, let me say that every year on King Holiday, we ask public officials to come and address us on what is the state of the dream under their domain. And we may agree or disagree during the year, but we give them a forum to tell us so we can hear for ourselves what it is they are doing and not doing. And bring them in. And I think that it is important that we understand that Martin Luther King was not just one that demonstrated, but he set policy. And he said, you know, years ago I used to be with James Brown. James Brown always knew how to make a late grand entrance. And I think in the spirit of James Brown, the mayor's making one. You're doing the James Brown on me, brothers, Mandani. We used to hide James Brown around the corner, and then when the opening acts were on, he'd then come in. So I want us to know that we want to hear policy, and we want to hear what we're doing and how it's being done. This morning, we were in Washington. Every year, National Action Network has the MLK Breakfast in Washington that is co-chaired by Martin Luther King III, and he and I chaired it this morning. We gave awards to Eric Holder and Donna Brazil and Sheila Johnson, as well as the mayor of Baltimore, and then flew back to here to New York to do the forum. We do 2 cities a year. One of the reasons is that, as you saw, Martin Luther King's widow, Coretta Scott King, 26 years ago, said she wanted Martin and I to continue to keep this movement going, and we've tried to do that. But doing that means we have different roles in different ways. Everybody is not protesting, and everybody is not in politics. There are those of us that stay in the streets, and there are those of us that stay in the suites. But we always need to be on the same policy. I've seen too many people come through here that were grassroots until they got elected, and then we don't hear from them no more. And I've seen people that came out of nowhere and got elected and ended up delivering. We don't want to hear your rhetoric. We want results. Let me say this, and I'm going to start having our officials come. There's never been a time more in my life that the dream of Dr. King is at risk than right now. The major laws passed in the King movement, Voting Rights Act of 65, Civil Rights Act of 64, are both under threat right now. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is in front of the Supreme Court, and with this court, it can be wiped out or diluted. The fight against DEI is the core of what the Civil Rights Act of 64 was about. The Trump administration is a direct threat to King's dream. In fact, for us to stand here today and see an unarmed white woman shot and killed in New Orleans, and no one, I'm sorry, in Minnesota, y'all handing me notes. Y'all got the wrong cities. For 6 years ago, let me put it this way, 6 years ago, we were in Minneapolis because of George Floyd. His family had called me, we went, led the marches, I did the funerals. 6 years later, you have an unarmed white woman that had just brought her child to school, 6-year-old child, shot at point blank range. And all they can say is, well, she said something. She said, I love you, buddy. But if she cursed him out, does that give them the right to shoot her? And they're now talking about sending in National Guard, sending in more ICE agents, sending 1,500. We are in a state that Dr. King would have been fighting against this country going this far. We've already seen in the national parks, on holidays, several holidays, you could go to the national parks free. First thing Trump did was now say on Martin Luther King Day and on Juneteenth he got to pay. But you don't have to pay on Flag Day because that's his birthday. This is the climate we in. So all of y'all that talk about I'm young and don't remember the King days, I was 12 when he got killed. I had already joined Operation Breadbasket, became Jesse's youth director at 13. I grew up in the movement. You may not have. But you were in the day that Dr. King had fought. Our job is not to return back to those days. That's why we are passing tests of if everybody going to do everything we want. If people are on our side, we can disagree without being disagreeable, because we have folks that are adversarial to the interests of our community. And we need to make a pledge on King Day that we're going to fight and make what should happen happen to preserve the dream of Dr. King. We're going to disagree with some of the people that are on our side. But if they're on our side, we know how to disagree. We're going to sometimes see people fumble. I had to pray with the governor. She's still in prayer because the Buffalo Bills lost at the last minute last night. Sometimes you can just miss the end of the game. But we will not allow them to turn this country or this state or this city back to the pre-King days. Don't memorialize the dreamer and not protect the dream. That's what we are for. That's what we're about. In the spirit, I want to bring to you a woman that I've worked with since she's been in office. I cannot remember a time that I've called her that she didn't respond. I cannot remember a commitment she didn't keep. I cannot remember if she said, I can't go with this, but I can do with that. She didn't do it. And I've grown to respect her and consider her one that has worked with this organization and our movement. And she is, in my opinion, earned the right to start us off today. The governor of the state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. You just heard from Reverend Sharpton, the conscience of America. Dr. King would be so proud to know how you have carried on his legacy. And yes, you were a 12-year-old, but you were a 12-year-old preacher, is my recollection. So you're a little bit ahead of your time. But I'm here to talk about the only true king that America ever had. And that is Dr. Martin Luther King, a king who lived for justice, a king who embodied love and compassion, a king who created the beloved community that he spoke of, the king who fought for the beautiful struggle, the king who gave power to the people. Not a would-be king in Washington who's trying to assert his power and his ego over the rest of America in a form of tyranny of which we've not seen in 250 years. That is the fight we are in today in 2026. So, Reverend Al, you can ask us where we think Dr. King's dream is today, but let's reflect on what he would say about this time. If he saw what's happening in 2026 and has been going on for exactly 1 year already, he'd say, heaven help us. Heaven help us. Let's get back to the streets. Let's start the fight again, because the march so clearly has not been completed in this country because of what has happened in Washington. And you reflect on what happened in Minneapolis. A 6-year-old child woke up with a mother and went to bed an orphan in the United States of America. And if that can happen to one woman in Minneapolis, what about everyone else who stands in the way of this would-be king asserting his power? And I'll tell you this, as governor of a state whose legacy has been built on civil rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, that's in our DNA, my friends. We're hardwired to fight back and protect others' rights. And this moment in history calls us to do just that. And you want us to talk about policies, Reverend Al? How much time you got here? I just gave a State of the State address that'll knock your socks off because we deal with every challenge of the day. But let me talk about two that seem particularly acute right now as we think about Minneapolis and ICE agents flooding our streets and terrorizing people, not just in Minneapolis, but I was over in Little Haiti a little while back. Little Haiti is now a ghost town because of the fear that's been engendered. ICE agents, our neighborhoods. People aren't going to their churches. They're not taking their kids to schools or daycare because of this fear. And it's not an unfounded fear. Families are being separated day after day, even people going to court to follow the law. And they're being taken off, walking out of a courtroom, being told they're a criminal now, in handcuffs to a place their family has no idea where they are. So I said, this is the state of New York, and we will ensure, when we get a law passed very soon, that ICE agents may not go to sensitive places like a school, places of worship, a daycare center, a hospital, a courtroom. You may not go there unless you show us you have an order signed by a judge. That's it. And that judge would only be doing that if a crime has been committed and not the offense of crossing the border. We're standing up for our communities. Secondly, when your rights have been trampled, like the woman who lost her life, that baby, that little 6-year-old, its family should have a right to pursue justice in the courts. That happens here in the state of New York when I get my new law passed. Every single person who's had their constitutional rights taken away by ICE, whether you're reporters covering the story and are beaten up and pushed aside, a factory owner in upstate New York that I went to, and this is ruby red Trump country, ruby red, where a factory owner who told me he voted for Donald Trump, no, he regrets it now, don't worry. We're good. That ICE agents showed up and walked into a workforce of 170 hardworking people making power bars to ship to Walmarts and Costco's around the world, and they separated them in the break room by the color of their skin. Whites over here, black and brown over here, and the black and brown individuals were taken away by ICE. Didn't care if they were U.S. citizens, didn't care if they had legal status, didn't care a damn thing. And in fact, 6 of them were mothers with children under the age of 1 who were nursing their babies, and they were separated from them. I'm a mother. I'm New York's first mom governor. And you tell me stories like this, the depravity and the cruelty going on in our own state? We have to stand up. They should have rights to sue and say, you damaged my economic well-being, you hurt my family. You have a right to stand up against power. That's what I'm talking about here in the state of New York. And briefly, the policies that we're talking about, ensuring that we have affordable child care for every child who calls themselves in New York. And I want to thank our mayor, Mandani, for standing with me in this fight, because I am that mom who had to give up a job I love because I couldn't find affordable child care. And why am I so vested in housing, the right of decent housing for everyone? Because my parents used to live in a trailer park next to a steel plant where Dad and Grandpa worked. It was tough. And I lived in an unheated attic in Buffalo. Why do you think I'm so tough? Thank God for the space heater. I shared that attic with 2 brothers because we didn't have a lot of room for our big family. So housing means so much to me. And how do we get out of that trailer park? How do we lift ourselves out of that? My dad was able to get a college degree and could stop working at the steel plant. That's why college education means so much to me, because it lifted my family out of their circumstances. I want that opportunity for everyone in my budget. For people who are over the age of 25 and want to go into skilled trades or health care or education, just be able to take care of their families, we, the state of New York, will cover the entire cost of that education, tuition and your books, everything, because I know the power of unlocking people's potential with an education. We're going to continue focusing on driving down the high utility rates and car insurance rates and all those areas where you're at the end of the month, you're just saying, I can't make ends meet. I've lived that experience. I've clipped the coupons. I had a lot to eat of cans of Spam because my parents could make that. You guys, who likes Spam? I mean, I'm sorry if you like it. You open up the can, your little kid getting creeped out by the jelly and all that. My mom would fry it and call it dinner. Okay, it was a cheap way to serve a big family. So I have lived that life. And my job as the governor of New York is to say that no one else should have to struggle, because this is a great state a shining state. We should be example to others. And we'll do that in how we protect our immigrant community and how we lift up our families and how we keep them safe. Thank you very much. Dr. King should be proud of New Yorkers because this is the state where we mobilize, we take to the streets, and we fight back every single day. Thank you much, everybody. Thank you very much.
Governor Kathy Hochul. Several years ago, and I don't know about that spam. I got to tell her I used to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches when I was on welfare. We couldn't afford spam. We can get up here and exchange poor folks' stories now if y'all get started. Several years ago when Governor Patterson was in office, he called me one day because there was the vacancy in the U.S. Senate seat. And he said, Reverend Al, I said, yes, sir. And you know that Patterson goes way back to the beginning of NAN with us. And he said, I want you to bring somebody to breakfast. I said, okay. He said, you had taken Barack Obama to breakfast, and Sylvia's made a lot of news, and others. I want you to take a guest to breakfast. I said, who? He said, Caroline Kennedy. So I knew that he was deliberating on who he was going to make the senator or who he was going to nominate since the vacancy from the Senate with Hillary Clinton going on. And I said, okay. I had breakfast with Caroline. We ate in the front of the pane windows so everybody can get their picture. So I went back just knowing I had the inside scoop. And then he called me 2 days later and said, Reverend Al, Saturday at your regular Saturday rally, he says, are you Philip? I want you to have a speaker. I said, you want somebody to speak on my broadcast Saturday, right here? He said, yeah. I said, well, who do you want to have? He told me. I said, well, who is that? He said, you'll know by Saturday. And that Thursday, he nominated and put in to fill that vacancy Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. She came that Saturday, and I introduced her as Gillibrand. I couldn't even say her name right. But she has been here ever since and has stood with us on issues that were tough and controversial. And I want you to greet the senator from the state of New York, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
Give it up for Reverend Sharpton. He is an incredible leader. We are so grateful for him. Celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Day would be nothing without coming to NAN to talk to all of you and to talk about what's facing our city and our state. I want to thank our gov who just left, our mayor, all our elected leaders that are standing here. Hakeem's here representing the Washington delegation and some of our members of Congress. So thank you guys for being here. We are truly blessed to be with such important leaders with us on a day where we should talk about the things that the Reverend has asked us to talk about. How far away are we from that dream? Are we still fighting for the right things? Are we still fighting for a dream that every person born in this country, any person who comes to America with a dream in their heart can make a difference to help people, to grow our community, to grow our city and grow our state? Martin Luther King was someone who believed that we are put on this earth to make a difference. And one thing that Reverend Sharpton says over and over and over again, the time is always right to do what is right. And that is the heart of the struggle that MLK Jr. commanded us to follow. Right now, our communities, our state, we struggle in Donald Trump's America. Costs on everything from food to coffee to diapers, prescriptions are up. But worse than all of that, hate, cruelty, dehumanization is rising. The MAGA base and President Trump want us to fight one another instead of fighting for one another. MLK said, hatred paralyzes life. Love releases it. Hatred confuses life. Love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life, but love is what illuminates it. Both Dr. King and our faith teach us we must not overcome evil. We must not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So while our progress and justice can never come fast enough, together we can achieve this. When we love one another, when we treat others the way we want to be treated, when we forgive our enemies, when God tells us to love him and his creation with all our hearts, minds, and souls, we see that what unites us is far more powerful than what divides us. Hate will not distract us from fighting for the roof over our neighbors' heads. Hate will not distract us from getting food on the table for every family, better jobs, higher pay, a healthcare system that wants to keep black moms and black babies alive. Together, we will get the guns off the streets. I remember well when I came to NAN 17 years ago. What the Reverend didn't tell us is that I stood for about an hour taking all the questions from this community. And I can tell you the number one issue on people's heart was the amount of gun death in this community. The number one issue that people wanted me to promise them is that we would stop these illegal guns coming into our communities, resulting in our children's death. And so I started to work that day on a gun trafficking bill. It took me 13 years to pass that legislation, but today we have arrested hundreds of traffickers and taken thousands of weapons off the streets because of the commitment that we made together to one another that day. So when we are fighting these good fights, we must not grow weary. We are asked to fight the good fight every day. We are told that when the day of evil comes, we are commanded to put aside the deeds of the darkness and put on the armor of light. When you have the armor of God on you, you can stand your ground. Your feet is fitted with the righteousness of the gospel of peace. So we are commanded to pursue righteousness and godliness and faith and love, endurance and gentleness. Fight that good fight until the end with our faith. So God bless you, Nan. God bless this whole community. I live and I'm grateful and humble to serve you. God bless you all.
Many years ago, Shirley Chisholm and my pastor, Reverend William Jones, whose daughter is the vice chair of the board of National Action Network. Come on, Jenny, she used to be sitting up here. Told me that there was a council race out in Flatbush, and that I should go out there and help get the vote out. And I went, and we saw a man go to council, then to Congress, then the U.S. Senate. He has never, ever not been open and very much involved in what we were trying to do. And he's been here every year that National Action Network next month, in March, will be 35 years old. And I can't remember a King Day that he was not wherever we were. And as you know, we're getting ready to move. I'll talk about that later. But this man has been there. Whether we agreed or disagreed on a particular craving or carving of a bill, we always agreed in the direction of the country. And now with this man in the White House, who's trying to go back to the pre-King days, more than ever, we need people that will stand and be a firewall to bringing us back to the days that Dr. King fought against, pre-voting rights days, pre-DEI or Civil Rights Act days. He is the minority leader of the United States Senate, but he's still my homeboy from Brooklyn, Senator Chuck Schumer.
Thank you, Rev. When I first ran and they ran a racist campaign against me, it was the great Reverend Sharpton, as well as Reverend Jones, as well as Gardner Taylor, who came to me and said, we are not going to let them run you out of town on a racist campaign, and here I am. Now, on this Dr. King Day, two things. One, what ICE is doing is despicable and must be stopped. What I'm saying is this, it is so against what Dr. King stood for. Picking up Americans on the streets, not even masked, no ID, putting them in prison, they don't even know why. It is outrageous, and we're going to do everything we can to stop the despicable ICE and what they're doing. And second, on Dr. King Day, you remember his last speech, and he was shot helping organize union workers. Our nurses are out on the front lines. They deserve good pay. They deserve good benefits. They deserve good working conditions. They deserve good pensions. Let's stick up for our nurses as well. Okay, two quick things, because I know we have a lot of other people who are here to speak. First, just a couple of points about the greatness of Dr. King. You know, when you think about it, it's the only holiday on our calendar named for a single person. We have Mother's Day for the mothers, and Father's Day for the fathers, and Veterans Day for the veterans, and President's Day for the presidents, but only one holiday for a single person, and that's Dr. King's Day. And that's because he was so unique, so extraordinary, that he deserves it. And a note of history, guess who helped pass that law to make it a national holiday? Me, when I was a congressman. And do you know the bigotry both inside the House and outside on the streets against that legislation to make his birthday a holiday? But we fought it in Dr. King's name and we won. And that's how we're going to win many, many fights in the future. One other point. Here's what Dr. King did. On his broad shoulders, he hoisted up a giant mirror. And with his eloquence, with his brilliance, and with his faith, he forced America to look into that mirror. And America didn't like what it saw. And that helped us move forward on our long, long trek for full equality for all Americans. We still got a long way to go. But what he did was amazing, and we can never, never forget it. And one little word of how being in the majority, which we're going to take back in the House and Senate and stop these sons of guns. When we were in the majority, we put in 235 progressive judges, 2/3 women, 2/3 people of color, more black judges, more Hispanic judges, more Asian American judges, more LGBT Jew judges than we have ever had. And now, when Trump, with his recklessness, his lawlessness, his viciousness, breaks the law, we can go to court, and those judges are hearing the cases, and we have won 85% of the cases in court because of what we did and what we can do. So voting makes a difference, fighting makes a difference, struggling makes a difference. God bless you. God bless NAM. God bless Dr. King and his memory. May we fight in regards to that in the future as well. Thank you.
Senator Schumer, give him a hand. Every Christmas and Thanksgiving, we feed the seniors and the homeless here. That's how I spend our holiday. And we ask people to come and help to serve. And because they are holidays, some come and serve an hour or two. Some stay longer. Year before last, one guy came and said, I came to help serve. And we gave him a station toward the end. He wasn't even near the center in the photo shoot. Everybody be knocking folk. You know, I used to think folk liked me. They really was just trying to get in the camera shot. And he wasn't trying to do that. And our vice chairman, Jennifer Jones Austin's daughter, said about 4 o'clock that evening, she said, you know, there's one guy that's been here all day serving people. And we said, who's that? There's some assemblyman or something. I said, okay. About 3 months, 4 months later, he came and saw us at the corporate office, told me he was running, brought one person with him, a sister. And he said, and by the way, you know, I was there serving on Christmas Day all day. I said, really? He said, yeah. He says, I said, and you running for mayor now? He said, yeah. Well, he ran, and he kept coming back, and he kept talking to me. He'd call and check in, and he'd say this and say that. And, you know, I like underdogs because nobody thought I'd be nothing. Half of y'all in here now trying to get on stage, you say I would never be on your stage. That's why you sitting in the audience right now. You know, you've been covering me a long time. You know, they used to call me Fat Al and all that. I know.
I did not say that, but I know what you mean.
All right, I'll leave that alone. I got company. I can say that I've never reached out to him that he didn't respond. And he's never said things that he will always say, I don't know, or I'm with you on that. We do not need a mayor that is going to make us feel good. We need a mayor that's going to make us do good. We don't need someone that will feed us something that they know they're not going to do. Our city needs a lot of help. We don't know if we're next after Minneapolis. We don't know about how we're going to deal with affordable housing. We don't know how we're going to deal with how we protect citizens, but at the same time don't undermine policing so that citizens can be protected. We just don't want bad cops. We don't know how we're going to deal with that, but we do know that there's someone in charge that has gotten and gained the confidence of the people of this city. And I'm going to work with him, and we want to hear from him on King Day. First time he's addressing us as the mayor of the city of New York, Mayor Zohran Mandani.
Good afternoon, Nam. It is a pleasure and frankly a privilege to be here. And you know, just before I begin, Dr. King's Day is a day when oftentimes so many of us turn to his words. We think about his legacy in terms of the language that he left us. And one of the many things that I appreciate about being here at NAN is an understanding that the importance of legacy comes from the service that was left behind and the service that we must do. And so I thank you, Rev, for always having service at the heart of what leadership and legacy can look like. And I want to say it's a pleasure to be here not only with Reverend Sharpton, but also with our senators representing us in the United States Senate, with our congresspeople and our leader, Hakeem Jeffries, with our speaker, Julie Menon, and the city council people that are here today, with our district attorney, our police commissioner, with also, I see in the crowd here, our schools chancellor. Come on, if you want to stand up to introduce yourself to people. Somebody from the administration is speaking every day here. And I want to also thank, we have our controller here today as well with us, as well as members of the New York State Assembly and the State Senate. And I thank all of these many leaders because what you see on this stage is the fact that leadership can never be contained in one person. This work can never be done alone at an individual level. Politics can never be distilled into the act of self. It has to be about a collective. And so when we think about how we will move our city forward, it will be all of us moving that city forward together. And we know that as we celebrate this holiday across this nation, it is despite the best efforts of many in power to make it no longer so. A holiday should mean rest, should mean time with family, should mean a long walk, a book finally opened, a chore finally finished. But for so many of our neighbors, rest is a luxury that they can no longer afford. I speak of those across our 5 boroughs and beyond who toil from before the sun rises until long after it's been set, because the costs that they contend with do not rest. They may be driving taxis today because they drive a taxi every day. They may be mopping floors and stocking shelves, cooking in too hot kitchens, and toiling in dismal sweatshops. I speak of those who cannot rest because they march the picket line, fighting for that very right to rest. As we gather today, we know that thousands of nurses across this city, those who heal us when we are hurt, who console us when we are afraid, that they are sacrificing their own rest to win the dignity that they deserve. And we want to let those nurses know that we are with them in that fight. And I speak of those who cannot rest because the forces of darkness do not rest. I know that many among us, many in this room here today, are frankly exhausted. They wish to rest, but they cannot. The work is too urgent. The flame of justice lit by Dr. King and so many others is still too fragile. The light that it casts too needed across the dark corners of our society. Those forces of darkness wear masks because they know that what they are doing is wrong. They murder a mother of 3 as she tries to drive away. They terrorize the very communities that they are supposed to protect. They enter into schools and homes and work sites and abduct neighbors whose only crime is just trying to live a decent life in the place that we call home. And we cannot rest, my friends, so long as injustice does not rest. I understand the impulse to look away. Those at the highest levels of power insist that we ignore what we can see with our own eyes. I have been asked why I referred to the murder of that mother as a murder. And I respond to say, can you describe it any other way? They address us from behind podiums or dressed in combat gear. When they speak, cruelty is called order. Lawlessness is called security. We are urged to accept the unacceptable, to treat the violence as routine, to normalize the immoral. Those who seek to divide us, they may carry an immense might, but they know that it is still not enough. And so what they do is they demand that we look away. They demand that we accept this disintegration of morality as if it is normal. And so in moments like this, where we know that what we are witnessing is anything but normal, I turn for wisdom to the words that Dr. King delivered 61 years ago this March, after he marched from Selma to Montgomery. He said, the only normalcy that we will settle for is the normalcy that recognizes the dignity and worth of all of God's children. The only normalcy that we will settle for is the normalcy that allows judgment to run down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. The only normalcy we will settle for is the normalcy of brotherhood, the normalcy of true peace, the normalcy of justice. That pursuit of justice, my friends, must be our North Star. And in this moment where those with the most power seek to convince us that we hold none at all, let us never forget the power that indeed is within each one of our hands. It is the power to link arms with one another, the power to make the stranger your brother, the power to choose solidarity over silence, to confront hatred with something far stronger, peace. And here is the truth, my friends. Those who seek to lead through fear and oppression are not only weak, they are few. They follow in the craven footsteps of those 2 generations ago who aimed fire hoses at those marching peacefully, who targeted those calling for justice with tear gas and horses and billy clubs, who screamed profanities at children who had the courage to go to school alongside those with the skin of a different color. That kind of power is brittle. That kind of power is desperate. And that kind of power is deeply out of touch with the people of this nation and what they want and what they believe. And so every day when you are made to feel as if it is you, in fact, who is out of step with this country, know that it is what you are seeing that is out of step with this country. So I will close with this. Dr. King's legacy of justice and struggle is no relic of the past. It is a living, breathing thing. When we speak of being the most expensive city in the United States of America, it is still an embodiment of the question Dr. King asked decades ago when he said, what good is having the right to sit at a lunch counter if you can't afford to buy a hamburger? I said this when I ran to be the mayor. What good is being the greatest city in the world if New Yorkers can't afford to live here? And so what our work must be is to not only embody the words and the wisdom of Dr. King on a day like today, but to deliver on those words of wisdom every single day. So that what we can do when a New Yorker looks at City Hall is we can tell them that is a place fighting for them. And I can tell you today, on the 19th day of being your mayor, that in these last 2.5 weeks, we have started down the path of universal child care. We have already started to deliver on this work, because on the first day after our inauguration, I went to a building with tenants who had been mistreated by their landlord. And I spoke to a black woman who turned to me and said, "I've been living in this apartment with this level of disrepair," and she pointed to the different parts of her bathroom. I asked her, "How long have you been living with it?" She turned to her son, who's more than 20 years old. She said, "Before he was born." And I looked at the rust falling off my own fingers. I looked at what we would call an example of a bad landlord who had never been held to account. And I am proud to tell you that thanks to our administration standing up for those tenants, we have secured $30 million to fix every one of those repairs. I tell you this to say that these must be words that guide our actions, that it is not enough to inspire hope, we must sustain hope. And the way that we sustain hope is by delivering change. And so I thank you, Reverend Sharpton, for having us all here. And I thank Dr. King for giving us the torch, the light, the vision of what this city and what this nation could look like. Now it is up to us to follow it. Thank you so much, Nan.
Give a hand to Mayor Zoran Mandani. Many years ago, a young lawyer came to see me. I knew some of his relatives. He joined the National Action Network. He ran for office, and he lost that race. But I supported him because he was a young, sincere, as well as very deep thinking in terms of what he does. He has since then grown into a giant in this country. But he's always been the same person that I met. We talk often, and we go through different policies together. He is on the precipice of making history again, because he has the broad vision and the ability to see big things, but built on the foundation of our community. If this country does what it should, he will become the Speaker of the House of Representatives in November. But he will always be that young brother from Brooklyn, New York, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries.
Good afternoon, and happy King Day. What an honor and a privilege to be here, of course, back at NAN with Reverend Sharpton. So thankful for Reverend Sharpton's leadership, his friendship, mentorship, and partnership. We know that Reverend Sharpton is a civil rights champion, a defender of the disenfranchised, a voice for the voiceless, and a powerful, profound, prophetic, principled preacher of the word. America's better off today because of the civil rights leadership of the Reverend Al Sharpton. I'm so thankful to be here with all of my colleagues in government as we navigate these very challenging times, two different directions. As Dr. King suggested to us when he posed the question, where do we go from here? We want to move the country forward. They're trying to turn back the clock. We're fighting to bring people together. The extremists are tearing us apart. We believe in truth and reconciliation. They want to whitewash our history. But civil rights history, black history, it's American history. We will never let them erase it. Challenging times as we navigate this moment, we know and celebrate the life, the leadership, the powerful legacy of Dr. King. He wasn't just a great civil rights leader, he was a mighty man of God. And so I'm drawn just briefly to the scripture in 2 Corinthians, the 4th chapter. That's 2 Corinthians, not 2 Corinthians. If the president's going to sell the Bible, he should know the Bible. 2 Corinthians, 4th chapter, 8th verse, Apostle Paul writes, "We are troubled on every side, but not distressed, perplexed, but never in despair." It's certainly the case that there is trouble all around us. We got a hater in the White House, haters in the cabinet, haters throughout the Congress, people who are going to celebrate Dr. King today and then push back against liberty and justice for all tomorrow. I've learned over the years, Reverend Sharpton, during my time in Congress, Jim Crow may be dead, but he's got some nieces and nephews that are alive and well. Trouble all around us. We're going to continue to work hard to make life better for the American people while we push back against the extremism. We believe that in this great country, standing on the shoulders of Dr. King, if you work hard and you play by the rules, you should be able to live a comfortable life, an affordable life, live the good life, good paying job, good housing, good health care, good education for your children, and a good retirement. Which, by the way, means making sure these extremists keep their hands off your Social Security and your Medicare at all times. Work hard, play by the rules, live the good life. But trouble all around us. Yet we're not distressed because we know that Dr. King gave us the vision, the dream, the blueprint for addressing societal ills, urging us at all times to show up and stand up and speak up for what we know is right, and to summon that courage, that character, and that conviction of Dr. King and those civil rights heroes and foot soldiers, the same courage that Reverend Sharpton encourages us to continue to display today. And that in doing so, we can bend the arc of the moral universe toward justice. As I take my seat, let me just simply say, and I'm proud to be here with my colleagues in the congressional delegation, of course, Adriano Espaillat and Dan Goldman. As I think about Dr. King's journey, I'm reminded that 70 years ago, during the dawn of the civil rights movement, just a few months after Rosa Parks in December of 1955 sat down on that bus in Montgomery, Alabama, she sat down so that everybody else could stand up. And just a few months after Rosa Parks sat down, during the dawn of the civil rights movement, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he came to Brooklyn, New York, to the Concord Baptist Church of Christ. So on March 26th of 1956, and at that time it was unclear whether the movement was going to be successful. A lot of folks thought it impossible to face down the bitter racism of Jim Crow, the authoritarianism in the Jim Crow South, the racial oppression that had dominated for almost 100 years after emancipation. And Dr. King said, notwithstanding those who were discouraged about what may happen, he said, you've got to press on and keep pressing. And he said something that I've never forgotten since it was first brought to my attention. He said, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But at all times, press on and keep pressing. Trouble all around us, but Dr. King is telling us to press on. Press on for our children. Press on for our seniors. Press on for our families. Press on for our ancestors. Press on for working families. Press on for the middle class. Press on for our veterans. Press on for our unions. Press on for our dreamers. Press on for the poor. Press on for the sick. Press on for the afflicted. Press on for the least. Press on for the lost. Press on for the left behind. Press on for civil rights. Press on for voting rights. Press on for women's rights. Press on for racial justice. Press on for social justice. Press on for housing justice. Press on for economic justice. Press on for freedom. Press on for democracy. We've got to press on until victory is won. God bless you, Nan.
Come on, Bishop Hakeem Jeffries. Now see, you can't preach like that unless you got that in you. That ain't no teleprompter talking. One of the things, and I'm gonna have my vice chair help us bring, because a lot of our officials, I'm gonna give everybody time. But one of the things that, and I want, somebody passed me a note that they were outside, couldn't get in. I wrote back, what time did you get here? They said 1. I said, I told you already you'll get here 11:30. The 1 o'clock arrivals are outside. I told y'all that. Now we get a bigger place next year, but this year I told y'all what time to get here now. Don't be passing me no crazy notes. I'm trying to act nice, we got company, but don't make me, well, Tony didn't show up today. I ain't got nobody, oh, there he is. Everybody said, where Tony? People listen on radio want to know what you look like, Tony. You don't look like much, don't worry about it. I can pick on them like that. One of the people that reached out as soon as they came in office and has responded to this organization and to me every time we call. And I've known her family and I've gotten to know her. And we have not called her on anything big or small that she did not give immediate attention. Not a favor, but digs down in to see what it is that she can do. And that is why when the mayor said to me he was going to try, he thought he wanted to keep her, what did I think? I could say, I think that they operate with integrity. And I think, not that I had a deciding vote, but I guess he was just asking people what they thought. And I'm thankful that she, when she first became appointed police commissioner, she came and stood on this platform and talked on our radio show on Saturday at our Saturday Action Rally. And she said, I'll be back over and over again. So this is not her first time. In fact, she came during the Saturday Action Rallies, and we the activists on Saturday that you don't come and talk to us just any kind of way. But she wanted to be that kind of connection, and she's here on King Day. Let us welcome Police Commissioner Jessica Tish.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Rev Al, for welcoming me here today and for the role that you have played over decades in shaping the moral conscience of our city and for confronting injustice wherever it has taken root. You can see that work in the community that you've built here at the House of Justice for more than 3 decades. The National Action Network has stood with families in moments of crisis and has played a visible role in shaping how this city responds when questions of justice and accountability rise to the surface. In many ways, that work represents the continuation of the legacy that we are here today to honor. Today, we mark Dr. King's life and the mission that he left behind in the years since his death. His words have continued to challenge the character of this nation, and his leadership set a standard for moral courage that still shapes how responsibility is understood in public life and how each of us meets that calling. I am also conscious, standing here today, that the histories carried in this room are not all the same. The Black freedom struggle is its own story, shaped by its own suffering, its own courage, and its own resilience. At the same time, as a Jewish woman, I come with an inherited understanding of what it means for a people to be targeted and excluded, and with a deep awareness of how quickly dignity can erode when societies grow comfortable with silence. That shared awareness has long shaped the relationship between the Jewish community and the civil rights movement, not as an act of symbolism, but as an expression of moral obligation. We saw it on the stage of the Lincoln Memorial in August of 1963, when a Jewish refugee named Rabbi Joachim Prinz stood before the crowd just moments before Dr. King spoke. Rabbi Prinz had fled Nazi Germany after publicly condemning the regime. From the podium that day, he spoke as someone shaped by the consequences of what happens when injustice goes unanswered, warning that the greatest danger to any society was not hatred alone, but the willingness to look away. That sense of responsibility carries forward into the work that we are doing in this city right now. 2025 was a historic year for the NYPD and for the city of New York. Shooting incidents and shooting victims reached their lowest levels in recorded history. Murders declined 20%. The subway system had its safest year outside the pandemic era since 2009. Our cops took 5,000 illegal guns off of our streets. Those numbers matter because they represent lives spared and streets made safer. But the work of this department doesn't begin and end with crime data. It lives in the relationships built long before a 911 call, in community affairs officers who stay engaged in neighborhoods where trust has to be earned over time, and in youth programs like the NYPD Explorers and the Police Athletic League. The work of building safety and trust in this city lives in the same idea that Rabbi Prinz and Dr. King warned us not to forget, that presence matters and that silence carries a cost. And please know this, the NYPD will continue showing up for everyone in this city. Thank you so much.
We are now going to hear from one I know that has symbolized the strength of our community, as well as the ability to operate at a higher level of government without losing where they are anchored and who they are and what they are. It is important sometimes to make sure that you, as you go through heights, that you don't lose your balance. And this person has symbolized that, just as those before her have. May we hear from our Shiro, the State Attorney General, Tish James.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We got a lot of speakers. We got a lot of elected officials, so don't get them upset at me. I want to recognize all of my colleagues in government, but I want to introduce to you someone who is really special, who came here to be with you today. He is the Attorney General of New Jersey. His name is Matt Plattkin. Matt, please stand. Yeah. I don't know if you know, but AG Plattkin just sued a municipality in New Jersey. that did not want any black people moving into their county. And this gentleman who is Jewish stood up for the black community, standing proud, saying that discrimination is illegal, it's unconstitutional, and he stood up for all of us. Y'all better give it up to my friend Matt Plattkin. Now, I'm a little upset because I don't know her, but Governor Sherrill did not reappoint him. Yeah. And he did amazing work working with all of the Democratic attorney generals across this nation. As you know, we have stood up and we've defended our state as a sovereign state, defending it against executive orders coming from the President of the United States, which are illegal, unconstitutional. AG Plattkin has been with me by my side, defending our lawsuits, joining us. He's filed his own lawsuits. I joined him. Each and every case, from food stamps to SNAP to education to law enforcement to every possible executive order which threatens your rights, this Attorney General has stood up loudly and proudly, and I certainly am going to miss him by my side as the Attorney General of the great state of New Jersey. One more time for my buddy, my friend, AG Plattkin, who stands for justice each and every time. Oh, you can do better than that. Come on. Y'all got relatives in New Jersey. You can do better than that. Come on. It's also an honor and a privilege to be with all of my colleagues today as we celebrate Dr. King's Day. But today is not a day just to celebrate him. Today is a day that we not only remember him, but a day that we embrace his philosophy, his values. Because it seems these days that progress has stalled. And we've seen attacks on the values that we care about, and we've watched policies roll back, attacks on voting rights, on housing, so many issues that we cared about, so many issues that Dr. King fought for. This president is dismantling each and every day. Our history, our values, everything they're attempting to dismantle. And it's important that we stand up for civil rights, that we recognize the humanity and worth of all individuals, that we recognize the least and the lost, that we recognize foreigners and immigrants and individuals who serve us each and every day, immigrants whose names you do not know, but immigrants who contribute to our economy, who are part of our community, part of our neighbors, that are our neighbors. We've got to recognize and stand with them. And if you think as an African American and as a black person that they're not coming for you, well, let me tell you that they are coming for you each and every day. So I still believe in the dream, and I still believe that in the end that we will win, and I know that this too shall end. And I still believe that dignity and decency will prevail. And I still believe that God will have the final word. Can I get an amen? And I've learned that fighting for civil rights and social and economic justice in America, and particularly racial justice, is a journey, and that it's a winding road with trials and tribulations, and it's a path beset on all sides with trouble, but we are not walking it alone. And there are enemies of progress, and there's individuals who are causing chaos and confusion, and that there's individuals who are trying to divide us based on race and religion and ethnicity. But we won't allow it, will we? That's right. So this gathering is more than just a day to remember Dr. King's Day. It is our time to come together to stand against hatred and to stand against greed and lawlessness and economic injustice and to stand against corruption. And it's critically important that we all be in this together, because when prejudice based on race and ethnicity attempts to divide us, it creates conflict that distracts us from the real issues. Because at the same time that they're attempting to distract us, at the same time, what they're doing is sowing all of this corruption in the White House. And it's important that we stand together because they're using the government as a weapon against individuals who simply want to do their job. They're using government as a weapon against those who simply want to exercise their First Amendment right. They're using it as a weapon to divide us. Let us remember Renee Good. What is her name? Renee Good. Say her name. Renee Good. Say her name. Renee Good. And it's important that we understand that these individuals are only standing up and protesting against this military that's come into Minneapolis. And I support the Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison. Let's give him a round of applause for all that he is doing. So let us stand this day. Let us stand this day for the unheard. Let us stand this day for the masses. Let us stand this day for the stranger, the foreigner, the worker, the nurses who are striking today. Let us support them and let everyone know that they are standing and fighting not only for wages, but they're also fighting for safe working conditions, and they're fighting for staffing ratios, and it's really critically important that they maintain their benefits. We need to support the nurses and every worker moving forward. And lastly, let me also say that we've got to stand up for the LGBTQ community, because they're using the LGBTQ community right now. They're creating, it's cruel and inhuman what they're doing to the LGBTQ community. It's important that everyone understand that it's nothing but hate, that it's unfortunately distracting us as a community. This is nothing more than a government which represents greed, a government which simply wants to violate the rights of New York and New Jersey and all other states. But we're a sovereign state, and as long as I am the Attorney General of the state of New York, I will stand up and protect your rights from harm, stand with you each and every day. As people of good conscience, we've got to understand what this administration is up to. Our history will not be erased. We will not be erased. We will stand in the vanguard. We will stand up for justice, stand up for right, because at the end of the day, victory will win in the end. God bless you and thank you.
Tish James, give her a hand. I want to acknowledge, I acknowledge the vice chair of our board who's going to take over in a minute, but I want to acknowledge other board members, Ruben Diaz, who's on our national board, Howard Tish, who's on our national board. Is any other board members here? All right, and Dawn Jones. I didn't see, Dawn got her Sunday go-to-meeting hat on. I didn't know who she was. And let me say that, as Attorney General James said about the nurses, at 3:30, I'm going to Sinai and help the march on King Day on Amsterdam. We gonna march. Dr. King would be marching with the nurses. He was in Memphis for sanitation workers. So we're in the spirit. I told Martin this morning at our breakfast in Washington that I was going to march after our forum. We do the Washington breakfast. Eric Holt and everybody was there this morning. Then come to New York and do this, and then I'm gonna march, and then I'm gonna find somebody to march on for dinner too. One of the last things Dr. King brought to this nation was economic equity and standing up for equality. You heard the mayor say that you cannot just integrate a lunch counter if you can't pay for the meal. We've had controllers that have been trying to be fair, that we got our piece of the pie, not doing a favor, but opening doors like no other controller has done to make sure that if you can perform, that you can get in the door. A lot of people, Donald Trump said last week, the civil rights movement hurt white people. I'm not making this up. He said this in New York Times. So I guess it hurt whites to be able to share and compete with merit. Hurt them that we could sit in the front of the bus even though we was paying the same fare. Hurt them that we could stay in the same hotels even though we had to pay for the same rooms. And that we were paying taxes that paid for the police that were protecting the hotels that they were staying in. It hurt white people. And that's the kind of carnal thinking you have from this president head of state. But we had a state controller that says if they can do the job, I'm going to make sure that they're included in the process. And he has delivered, and we've made sure they deliver. And he's been here every King Day, and I want him to come forward now. The state controller of the state of New York, Tom DiNapoli.
Thank you, Reverend Sharpton. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy King Day. It's an honor to be with you once again. It's a privilege for me to be the state controller because I get to work with Tish James every day. But it means I gotta follow her very often after she speaks, and that's tough. Give it up again for our great Attorney General, Tish James, my partner in state government. And I can't help but notice, normally when I would be at these events, Reverend Sharpton, you'd have a place right in the front for Hazel Dukes. And I'm thinking of Hazel. How about a round of applause for Hazel Dukes? A great champion for all of us, a great role model for all of us. Let me just offer a few thoughts. It's a privilege to be here with all of my colleagues in government. So many have already spoke so eloquently, you'll be hearing from more. I think I feel, as all of you feel, that it's the start of a new year. It's usually a time when we would be in a good mood and anticipating good things happening, and yet feeling very hollow right now. I think we all are. I don't have to recite what it is we all know when we read each and every day. Every day, another assault to our conscience as to what's happening in our country. The violence, the division, the marginalization of people, of families, of individuals based on race, on religion, on sexual orientation, on gender, on immigration status. This is not the America that Dr. King spoke about. Some of us a couple hours ago, were up in the Bronx at Fellowship Covenant Church. And part of the MLK celebration was to play the I Have a Dream speech. I actually hadn't heard it for a while in pretty much its entirety. And in more recent years, when I would hear that speech, I'd say, wow, how far we've come. Martin Luther King laid it all out for us, gave us a roadmap, and we're making progress. That progress is under threat right now. Right. And what we have to do is redouble our efforts, roll up our sleeves, and say, we're not going to take it anymore. We're going to fight back in any way that we can. And I think the message of Dr. King's life and why we celebrate his birthday is that during the toughest of times that he endured, he always had a message of optimism and of hope. And so although I'm feeling dispirited, I use the King holiday as an opportunity to say, you know what? If he got through the times he got through, and he effectuated the changes that he has effectuated, well, we all can do our part in 2026. Don't you agree? So, Reverend Sharpton, last year, if you remember, he had a very clear challenge because we knew last year things weren't going to be so good. We didn't realize how bad it was going to get. But if you remember, Reverend Sharpton said very clearly, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, is not a bad word. Just the opposite. We can't retreat from that as a policy goal and a priority. And Reverend Sharpton, I want you to know, I took your words to heart. And with our management of the pension fund as an owner in corporate America, we continue to say to the companies we invest in, we expect you to have policies that respect the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're not backing off from what we expect as an owner. And some of them have backed off. And when they have, we've engaged with them and said, wait a minute, that's not what you said a year or two ago. It's not what we still believe, and we're an owner. We want you to hear our voice. And when their boards of directors have come up, if their boards are not diverse, if there aren't women on the boards, if there aren't people of color on the boards, we're voting against those boards of directors. We voted against 200 company board of directors this past year. And if you don't have policies in place to disclose your workforce diversity so we can evaluate how you're meeting your DEI objectives and the goals that we have for you, well, we're going to vote against your boards as well. We did that at over 370 companies. So we are doing our part as a shareholder of your pension fund money to keep DEI as a priority. And I appreciate that Reverend Sharpton acknowledged that we really have very aggressively opened the doors of opportunity for the management of our pension fund dollars, for women-owned firms, for firms of color. I think many of you have heard me say before, and we're doing it again this year. This year it's on February 13th. We're having our 18th MWBE Emerging Manager Conference in Albany to open the doors of opportunity. We're over $34 billion now under management by diverse firms, and we want to grow that number even higher. And when I first became controller a few years ago, one of the first people who reached out to me was Reverend Al Sharpton. And he said to me, Tom, you have a lot of responsibility, but one thing that we've heard about the management of this office, the pension fund, is that the doors are always closed. You have to keep the doors open. And Rev, I've tried my best, and we keep opening those doors wider and wider. With your support, we're going to continue to do that. So spread the word about February 13th, okay? Let me end with this. I always try, as part of the King celebrations that we all participate in, is look for some words from Dr. King as just a way to guide my heart for the day. Here's a quote that I haven't really used much in the past, but I think it speaks to how we should all be approaching the challenging times we're going through. Dr. King once said, "Make a career of humanity. Commit yourself to the noble struggle for equal rights. You will make a better person of yourself, a greater nation of your country, and a finer world to live in." To me, that is a message that each of us, whatever our role in life is, elected official, community leader, worker, whatever place we have, we can play our part. Let's all recommit to Dr. King's notion that we should all have a career in humanity. That's how we'll get the change in America that we all want. Thank you all. Thank you, Nan. Thank you, Reverend Sharpton.
All right, Controller, State of New York, Tom DiNapoli. I'm going to bring in our Vice Chair, but before we do it, we have some speakers you need to hear from. We have our Congressman here, Espiat. We have our DAs, both from Queens and Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, and certainly our new City Council President. And I want to say, when we had 9/11 and they wanted to close the mosque downtown, Julie Menon stood with us and fought to keep that mosque there. I want to say that for her, because and that took a lot. She took a lot of heat for that, but she did that, and I wanted to publicly say that. Let us bring on now, though, when we talked about the state controller, we have a new city controller, and this city controller, we know will do what is right, and the same level of dealing with diversity and equity and inclusion with merit. We're not asking for a favor. We're asking for consideration that is fair. And the reason we know he's fair is we knew him as Manhattan Borough President. He was fair then, and we know he will now do citywide what he did borough-wide. Let us hear from the new city controller, former Manhattan Borough President, Mark Levine.
Good afternoon, National Action Network. Very happy next year we're going to have a bigger spot. Hopefully no one who comes at 1 will lack a seat. I think we can do that. I can't stand on this stage and not feel the absence of my friend, Attorney Michael Harding, here on the left. So please remember him with me as we remember Hazel Dukes. And as for my friend, the Reverend Sharpton, there is no one in this city who understands better that you cannot have social justice and racial justice unless you also have economic justice. King understood that himself, and the Reverend is living that every single day. A year ago, when we were here for MLK Day, we felt the weight of an inauguration happening in Washington. You know what I'm talking about. We warned that the second term would be much worse than the first. I'm sorry that we were right. We have people suffering in this country who cannot find jobs and health care and housing. And we have a president who's spending his day redesigning a ballroom for the White House and planning an invasion of Greenland. and most disgracefully, sending unaccountable masked agents into American cities. This is serious. But I am proud that New York over the past year has fought back. We have protested, we have rallied, Nan has been at the forefront. We are winning this fight. I believe that now, and we are not backing down. Thank you. This is my first chance to speak to you as comptroller. It's a somewhat obscure job. Even pronouncing the name's a little bit hard. It's okay, I know. But to explain it, let me ask, how many of you work for or have worked for New York City? My goodness. Give them all a round of applause, public servants. Thank you for your service. My job is to protect your pensions, to make sure your check comes on time every month. I will do that, I promise you. The Attorney General said hallelujah to that. Although I think your pension's in the hands of Tom DiNapoli. You're in good shape. You're in good shape. My job is also to fight to make sure this is an economy that leaves no one behind. How are we doing on that front? King Day is a day to ask that. Dr. King used to talk about something he referred to as the black jobs deficit, because black unemployment was so high at that time. I'm sorry to say that over the past year, black unemployment is rising again in this country, as the president has laid off hundreds of thousands of federal workers, disproportionately black Americans, disproportionately black women. We are feeling that pain. This is also a New York story. In December, the black unemployment rate in New York passed 9%, triple the white rate in New York City. That's happening here in the 5 boroughs, in part because employers are not hiring, and that's falling on the shoulders of black families, and we must do better. Dr. King made jobs one of the pillars of his economic Bill of Rights. He made access to capital one of the pillars of that Bill of Rights, because he knew then, as is true now, that black businesses face unfair barriers in accessing capital. I will use the powers of this Office of Comptroller to address these struggles, to invest more of our pension money in New York City, in financing more affordable housing, and I will make sure that the people managing those pension funds look more like the people of New York City. And Reverend Sharpton will be my partner in that fight, as he has been every day. But we are going to need you, Nan, and all of you, and the Reverend, and all my colleagues up here, to tackle the black unemployment rate in New York, to do right by black workers and black businesses, to make this an economy rooted in justice. We can do this together. I want to grab the arc of the moral universe with you, with all of our hands, and bend it towards justice. Thank you so much, Nan. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Always an honor to be with you and to follow in the footsteps of our leader, President Al Sharpton. So, the program is about to move a little faster because I'm not as good at ad-libbing as he is. And so we're going to bring on our congresspersons to be followed by our city council speaker, and then we will move through the program accordingly. Let us hear now from Congressmember Espaillat.
Thank you. I'm glad the Reverend is not here because he usually puts me behind Tish James or Hakeem Jeffries, and that's called a setup. But anyway, thank you for all being here today to lift up the legacy of the great Martin Luther King. I came from Minnesota, from Minneapolis, Minnesota, 2 days ago to see, we witnessed there as we had a congressional hearing, what is happening with ICE. Masked agents, anonymous, no first name, no last name, no shield number. They don't respect houses of worship, schools, hospitals. Although immigration is a civil law matter, they carry high caliber weapons as though it was a criminal law matter. They're fueled by the budget to do this, to assault a woman, to drag her out of her car, to take a U.S. sitting senator from California and slam him on the floor, to shoot at point blank range. A woman, a mom in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That entity, ICE, has become a weapon, a violent weapon, a deadly weapon at that. And we must dismantle it. By that, it means that ICE agents must be unmasked. Or any agent, any law enforcement agent. The New York City Police Department here is not masked. And Tish James will tell you that most law enforcement people here in New York State are not masked. In addition to that, sensitive locations must be respected. Houses of worship, schools, hospitals, they must be respected. There must be a code of conduct that prohibits deadly force for people that are enforcing civil law. And so we must work together to reel ICE in. It has become a nightmare. And they're not just in Minnesota. They're in Chicago, lurking around schools as kids come in and out of school. They're in New Orleans, and they're here, right here in New York City as well. So this is the state of affairs in the country. A runaway train agency in military gear, masked, assaulting and killing our folks. And so if you think that anybody's exempted from this, believe me, you're not. You're not. And so I ask you, all of us, to stay together and believe. You know, Martin Luther King talked about the audacity to believe, how powerful that is, how transforming that is, to believe that we can do this and honor the legacy of the great Martin Luther King Jr. God bless you and keep the faith.
Let us now hear from Congressperson Dan Goldman.
Thank you, Jennifer. Great to be here with all of you. I'm Congressman Dan Goldman from the 10th District of New York, Lower Manhattan and Western Brooklyn. I want to thank Nan and the Rev for bringing us together, as he does so often, when we are having to deal with critical issues that are affecting all of us. I was here a few years ago to introduce my very first bill in Congress, the Early Voting Act, which would expand and protect that most fundamental right of every American that Dr. King fought so hard for. And for Jewish New Yorkers like myself, we especially appreciate Dr. King because he always saw the unique solidarity between the Black and Jewish communities. Dr. King once explained that Black people were brought to America in chains, while many Jews came to America to escape the chains fashioned for them in Europe. Our unity is born of our common struggle, he said, of Blacks and Jews, not only to rid ourselves of bondage, but to make oppression of any people by others an impossibility. And I can tell you that solidarity, that sentiment went both ways. Jews were early supporters of the civil rights movement and have continued to stand on the front lines in the fight for equal rights. When Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel marched alongside Dr. King in Selma, he famously said that he could feel his legs praying. A few weeks ago, we were jolted by an arson at the Beth Israel Synagogue in Jackson, Mississippi. The same synagogue that was bombed by the KKK in 1967. I was reminded of Dr. King's speech to the American Jewish Congress in 1958, when he noted that the same people who bombed Black homes and churches were the ones who bombed synagogues. "The racists of America fly blindly at both of us," he said, "caring not at all which of us falls." This bond between the Black and Jewish communities inspired me to go into public service. After studying the Jewish involvement in the civil rights movement in college, I went to law school because I wanted to be Jack Greenberg. As many of you know, Jack Greenberg led the NAACP Legal Defense Fund for 2 decades and worked right alongside Thurgood Marshall on Brown versus Board of Education. Jack Greenberg's example showed me just how much we can accomplish through the strength of Black and Jewish unity. And today, Jews in New York and around the world are scared. We are seeing a continuing surge in anti-Semitism that is increasingly resulting in violence and even murder. Jews make up about 10% of New York City's population, but a recent report released by the NYPD determined that 57% of all reported hate crimes last year in New York City were anti-Semitic hate crimes. Now, this is a problem that affects all of us, not just Jews, because as Dr. King so powerfully and famously put it, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And as a proud Jewish official representing New York City, who's dedicated my career to civil rights and social justice, I have a simple plea that I know Dr. King would echo. We need you. We need all of you. We need all of us to unite against hate. Jews cannot fight this hatred alone. There simply are not enough of us. And our fight against hate is bound up in one another's. As Dr. King taught us, you cannot separate one kind of hate from another. It may be one of us today, but it will be another tomorrow. And I want to conclude with another incredibly inspiring quote from Dr. King, straight from his I Have a Dream speech at the March on Washington, where he echoed the Hebrew prophet Amos and said, "We are not satisfied and will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. And that stream won't flow on its own. It will take all of us working together to achieve Dr. King's dream and the promise of this country. I very much look forward to continuing that partnership in the fight against hate with all of you, and I thank you very much for having me."
Thank you, Congressman. I bring to you New York City Council Speaker Julie Menin.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back at House of Justice. And I, first of all, want to recognize all of my colleagues in government, but particularly my colleagues. We've been joined by Councilmember Hudson, Councilmember Krishnan, Councilmember Brewer. Please shout out if there are any other council members here. I don't think there are, but if there are, please shout out. So I do want to just say that obviously here we are today honoring the legacy of Dr. King. And his legacy has inspired waves of change and generations of change makers. As you've heard from so many speakers who spoke before me, they talked about what is happening around the country and around this city regarding the fear, the tension, the uncertainty. Just last week in the City Council, we had one of our own employees, a data analyst, who went for a routine appointment, a routine court appointment, and then was taken by ICE. We are night and day working to secure his safe return. He had all of his legal papers, so despite any suggestion to the contrary, which is demonstrably false, he was here and had his work papers to work legally in the City Council. And so we will not rest until he's returned to us in the City Council. So I want to say that we are taking really historic steps in the council. This week, we announced the most diverse leadership team in the history of the council. We announced the first woman and Latina chief of staff in the council. And we announced our first ever chief equity officer, Simone Jones. Simone, thank you for everything that you're doing. Because equity doesn't happen by accident, it is about intentionality. It is not just about rhetoric and words, it is about action. Now, I do want to say that Dr. King reminded us that a right delayed is a right denied. And nowhere is that more evident than in how communities are counted, represented, and resourced. Historically, Black communities have not been fully counted in the census, and that undercounting has real consequences. It means fewer dollars for our schools, fewer dollars for Head Start, fewer funding for affordable housing, fewer funding for our communities all across the city, and fewer resources for the social services that families rely on every single day. When I served as the city's 2020 Census Director, and Jennifer, where's Jennifer? Right there. We worked a lot with Jennifer and with Reverend Sharpton and National Action Network. New York City, thanks to the efforts of so many people in this room, Dawn, I know you worked on it too, so many people in this room, we finished #1 of all cities across the country. And thanks to our great New York Attorney General, we worked together on the case suing the Trump administration to take the citizenship question off of the census. That was a question that hadn't been asked in 70 years. Are you a U.S. citizen? And we took that case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we won. Now, we have a situation where Republicans in Congress are trying to put that question back on the census. If they succeed, I want to be clear what that means. That will mean that communities across this city, immigrant communities, are going to lose tremendous amounts of funding. We have billions of dollars at stake riding on the census, and that is why we cannot afford to sit down on this issue. We need to stand up and we need to fight. And at the City Council, we created the first ever Office of the Census to ensure that we are working with communities across the city right now on the census in 2030. Now, the other thing that we need to do is, obviously, you heard from so many of the speakers, we have an affordability crisis. And I can assure you that at the City Council, we are going to build affordable housing, we're going to enact universal child care, we are going to lower skyrocketing health care costs, we are going to make sure that MWBEs are at the highest level that we have seen. That is the mission ahead, and that is what we're going to focus on. And if we... Thank you, Senator Jackson, thank you. Yes. And so, honestly, if we really want to honor the legacy of Dr. King, that is the least that we can do. And I know that collectively, with the help of all of you in this room, we are going to move that mission forward to reality. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, next we're going to hear from New Jersey Attorney General Matt Plattkin, followed by our public advocate, Jumaane Williams, and then Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Following him, Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz.
Good afternoon. I want to thank Reverend Al for having me here. We are living the inclusion part of diversity, equity, inclusion when New Jersey gets to be on the stage in New York City. So, by the way, my first meeting as Attorney General, I wasn't even sworn in yet, was with Reverend Al and Pastor Steffi Bartley and Michael, God rest his soul, in their Midtown office. I hadn't been sworn in. I took the train in and he said, "You came here by yourself." I said, "When Reverend Al tells you to show up, doesn't matter how you get there, but you show up." And he has been there with me, as has this organization, as we've done great work across the river, whether it be taking over the third largest police department in our state. We partnered with National Action Network, to all of the other work we've done. But I cannot speak more highly of any partner other than my wife, and maybe she would argue I talk to her more than my wife, than somebody I've had by my side through everything we have done than Tish James. You all know this because you're spoiled, because you're in New York, so you get to see her a lot because she's literally everywhere. But Tish James isn't just a Brooklyn hero or a New York City hero or a New York City or a New York State hero. I say this as somebody who will soon lose my title and just be a proud American. She is an American hero. And she embodies something that King said. He said, our lives begin to end the day we start being silent about things that matter. That, to me, sums up where we are right now in this country. We are facing existential challenges brought to us by people who may hold higher office, but certainly don't have higher ideals. So it is not an option for us, and it was not an option for Attorney General Tish James or I to be silent on the first day in office when this president, with a stroke of a pen, tried to say that for the first time since the Civil War, babies born on U.S. soil wouldn't be given the rights and privileges of every other baby in this country. It wasn't an option when they tried to weaponize hunger and starve millions of children to score political points in a budget context, budget fight. So we stood up and protected the SNAP program. We stood up and protected trillions of dollars of federal spending, everything from schools to law enforcement to healthcare to veteran services. I've been across the country with Tish James over the last year. And I know it was not an option for me to stand up when the Department of Justice decided to go after her simply because she had the audacity to say that no person is above the law. Folks, this work has never been more important. We are in an existential moment in this crisis. It has been an honor to be in that fight with you, but it is not an option for us to keep fighting and going forward. We will get through this. We will get through this because of leaders behind me, because of leaders like Tish James, and frankly, we will get through this because of all of you. I thank Reverend Al, I thank Nan, I thank all of you for the privilege of serving with you, even if it was across the river.
Thank you. Public Advocate Jumaane Williams.
Peace and blessing, love of light, National Action Network. How y'all doing? I'm honored to be on stage. Thank our President, Reverend Sharpton, and the entire National Action Network. I'm gonna be brief. I'm gonna read a quick quote though. The evils of capitalism are as real as the evils of militarism and racism. The problems of racial injustice and economic injustice cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power. Now, I say that because that's not the quote from our new Democratic Socialist mayor that everybody's concerned about. That quote came from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so I just want to make sure when we celebrate Dr. King, we don't celebrate the sanitized version of Dr. King. We celebrate the radical, revolutionary Dr. King, and that we understand the struggles that we are fighting now, even ones that we pretend are not ours, are ours and have been for a very, very long time. There is a lot going, and by the way, there's people who are going to be talking about Dr. King who should not have their names in their mouth. Just keep his name out of your mouth. If you say that you would have been with Dr. King in the 60s and you are not standing up now, you're a hypocrite, and just keep your mouth shut. Because the things that are happening right now are antithetical to who Dr. King actually was. It is important that we remember not just the flowery words, but that Dr. King, when he died, was hated by a lot of people in this nation. By the way, including a lot of folks in the black community. They said he was the most dangerous man in this country. We have to remember that because they want you to remember the flowery Dr. King. But what he wanted is, he said, I was concerned that I have integrated into a burning house. He said he was tired of marching for something that was his at birth. These are the things that we have to remember because we're revisiting so many of this right here, right now. The truth of the matter is, I said this before, too many of us drank that orange Kool-Aid because we believed it was going to happen to other people. Not understanding history says it never just happens to other people. It always happens to all of us. So I'm hoping that we learn the lesson here on Dr. King that we cannot allow people to use our own biases against us. And so when we're fighting for equity, when we're fighting for justice, we have to include everybody. Everyone say everybody. Everybody. That means everybody. It has to mean our immigrant brothers and sisters. By the way, it has to mean our LGBTQ and trans siblings. Uh-oh, everybody say everybody. It's really important that we mean everybody. And this is the thing. The price of someone recognizing your humanity can't be you dismissing the humanity of someone else. That cannot be the price. And so I don't want anyone to lose their faith or their culture, because I'm not losing mine, but you have to move in love. And like the people said in Brazil, no one let go of anyone's hands. So grab someone's hand that you may be uncomfortable with, because someone will grab your hand, they might be uncomfortable with you. When we put a bias down, of a marker of bias, it allows someone else to put a marker that excludes you. So let's link arms with everybody. Let's get through this craziness that's going on. Remember that those of us who told you it was going to happen wasn't suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. Y'all was suffering from Trump denial syndrome. What's happening in this country, we knew was going to happen, but we can get through it. I want to get through it together, not just for my children, for my children's children who are waiting for a country that is better than the direction we're going in right now. So please, do whatever you can. We know Dr. King's name, we know Malcolm X's name, but there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people whose names we will never know, who marched, who walked, who prayed, who sang, who made a sandwich, who brought some water, who just bear witness. We all have to do what we can with where we are, with what we have, because history is waiting for us to win this battle, and we can. Peace and blessing, love and light to you all.
District Attorney Alvin Bragg, followed by District Attorney Melinda Katz.
Good afternoon, Nan. God is good. And all the time. And I start with that because I want to go back to basics. We can talk about the history. Our public advocate did a great job with that. We can talk about the letter from the Birmingham jail, the Montgomery bus boycott. But we can never, ever forget, just like Reverend Sharpton, just like Jennifer Jones Austin's father, Dr. King was a Baptist preacher, right? He was rooted in the Word. And he knew, like the prophet Micah, do justice, love mercy, walk humbly before God. He also knew what the Gospel of Matthew said. And I think that's all the instructions we need for today. Feed the hungry, clothe the naked, visit the person in prison, and invite the stranger in. And we've heard a lot about affordability. Towards the end of his life, the Poor People's Campaign, Dr. King focused like a laser on that. So I wanted to just talk for a couple of moments about what we're doing in the District Attorney's Office. Our new tenant protection unit. Prosecuting, we heard the mayor talk about these disastrous conditions. We have 2 prosecutions now against landlords who have people living, we allege, in deplorable conditions. That is work that Dr. King would want us to be focused on. We have right here in Harlem, I know we have some great folks from Brooklyn who spoke, and they talk about deed theft out there, but we have right here in Harlem people who are taking our brownstones away. And we just prosecuted someone who did deed theft, we allege. So we're gonna keep on focusing on that work. Yeah, we can clap. We're trying to keep our housing stock and our affordable housing stock in particular. And so we're doing that. And I wanted to tell you about our worker protection work, because honest day's work deserves an honest dollar. Time and time again, we are seeing and bringing cases for employers who are cheating their workers out of wages. And I wanted to just tell you about just one case, a case against the owner and a manager of a well-known pizza store. And this is about inviting the stranger in. We had text messages as proof in the case, people texting, I need to pay my rent. I work my shift, where is my pay? Texts and texts and texts. And not only did the employer say, I'm just not paying you, but disrespected their heritage, told them to go back to the country where they came from. But they didn't realize, and one of you said, we got better lawyers than you. They didn't realize that if you come to the district attorney's office, you have the lawyer who represents the people of the state of New York. And we got involved. And there was one worker in particular who stood out to me. He was working, he'd worked hard for his wages, which were not high enough. And he wore to work a hat that just said, we've all seen him, sell him on 125th Street, said USA. His employer said, not only am I not gonna pay you, you gotta take that hat off because this isn't your country. When he came to our office after we brought the prosecution, got the conviction, and were giving him his money back for the money he had earned, my heart was overjoyed, and I think Dr. King's would be too, because he did not feel like the stranger. He had been invited in. When he stepped up, I didn't know what he was wearing. He stepped up, he walked into the office. What do you have on? Boom, that USA hat. You know, and this is an office that we haven't all felt welcome in, right? But he felt welcome to come in wearing his hat, signed his name, and got his wages. We are here to serve all. God bless.
Good afternoon. Ooh, losing my voice already. Always happens on Martin Luther King Day. First of all, I want to acknowledge I'm always happy when Alvin Bragg speaks after Jumaane Williams and not me. But so I'm the Queens District Attorney. And there is a lot of talk today about the national issues going on and a lot of the city issues. I want to bring it a little bit back local if I can. So first of all, it is hard for me to believe that Martin Luther King Jr. would be 97 years old today. 97, hard to believe. And the reason I love celebrating with communities every single year for Martin Luther King Day is, first of all, I think we need to talk to our children about this day and the historical consequences of this day. And when my kids get the day off of school and we have dinner together, they're 14 and 17 years old. Every time I come here, I offer them to anyone, and I would pick them up when they're 21. Nobody has taken me up on that yet. They're good teenagers, though. But it's an opportunity to have the conversation about the movement, about the civil rights movement, about what's happened since then, and what's happening in today's society. And so I want to bring it a little more local if I can. First of all, thank you to Al Sharpton and Nan for having us on the board of directors and Marshall and everybody who works hard. And we do miss Hazel Dukes, and we miss everyone that we have lost over the last year. We have had so many cases in Queens of children upon children. So many cases. And we had a 15-year-old who is alleged to have shot a 13-year-old in a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. We have teenagers who are chasing each other down the street with knives. So what happens? You have to start before they even get to my office. It's got to start when they're kids. It's got to start with opportunity and education and mentorship programs and people that care deeply about them, like this institution of NAN and all of the churches in the neighborhoods. And for that reason, we started in our office forfeiture funds that are used. You know, when you do busts, you get money. We put them back into the community. So we spent about $3 million last year on youth programs and cure violence programs and making sure kids don't end up in the courtroom to begin with. Because isn't that how we do the best job that we possibly can? We reached 14,000 students last year to talk about how to stay away from the gangs. Gangs are not your chosen family. Don't let them convince you that they're your chosen family. They are not your chosen family. How to stay away from the illegal cannabis shops, because you never know what you're buying in those shops. It could be fentanyl, could be anything, and they are destroying our communities. And so we need to educate and mentor, but you can't do that without opportunity. And so from my perspective, we can prosecute the gangs and we can prosecute those that bring guns from North Carolina and Georgia. They come up the iron pipeline and they sell them to our children in New York City. But if we don't get them before they enter the courtroom, that's a problem. And so we invest in our children. I know Nan invests in our children, and really putting me out of a job at that point because there's no courtroom activity would be a good thing. But for now, there's accountability when there needs to be, but there's also education and mentors when there has to be as well. Thank you very much for having me today.
Employed for next little while. Thank you. All right, we're going to stay local for a few minutes to hear from Councilmember Shaker Krishnan as well as Councilmember Crystal Hudson.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are we feeling, Nan? All right. It is so good to see you all. I'm New York City Council Member Shaker Krishnan, coming to you from Jackson Heights, Queens. So we're staying on Queens right now. And I want to first say a big thank you to Reverend Sharpton, Reverend Marshall, Reverend Bird, Jennifer, and everyone from Nan and the whole Nan family who's here for hosting such a meaningful Dr. King Remembrance celebration today, every year, and the work that you do every single day. We've heard from so many of those who talked about the moment we're in right now, and I just want to take a step back and reflect on that. We are in a moment where Donald Trump and those in Washington are sending the National Guard to terrorize our community, ICE agents to kill those in our community, to harm those and rip them apart from our families. We are in a moment where Donald Trump is cutting taxes for his billionaire buddies so he can cut our benefits, like Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, and so much more. We are in a moment right now where the forces seemed aligned against us, but we never give up hope. Dr. King talked about the fierce urgency of now, and now could not be more urgent. And in this moment, in the fight that we are up against, I think about two things today. The first is from Dr. King's speech that I love, "Where do we go from here?" that he spoke at the 10th anniversary of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, where one of the things that he talked about in that speech, in that crossroads of where do we go from here, a crossroads that we are at right now, he said we have to recommit ourselves to love and nonviolence. That they may come at us with hate, with anger. We have seen that hate and anger for decades. We have stared at it in the face. But we return it with love, a tough, demanding love. That's what Dr. King talked to us about so many years ago. A love that he said is the most potent weapon available. A love that is ultimately the answer to mankind's problems. And I think of that in also reflecting on who we are and my own identity too. As the first Indian American ever elected to our New York City Council, where we have the first Indian American mayor right now of our city. And Reverend Sharpton and I have talked together about that theme of nonviolence that connected Dr. King with Mahatma Gandhi. Both of them knew that they may have the power of money, they may think that that gives them power, but we've got the power of the people. And that is always stronger than the power of money. That is always stronger than the power of hate against us. When we march together, hand in hand, as we've done here in New York, in Washington, in Selma, and out to the streets in India, in Mumbai, Maharashtra, and Gujarat. It is that power of the people that I know and I have full faith will make sure that we prevail against what we face. And the second thing I think about in closing is about the work that we have here in this city. You see, before being a council member for 15 years, I was a civil rights lawyer representing tenants, fighting alongside so many who did not have heat, hot water, mold in their kitchen. And that fight we know continues today. I was just standing with Councilmember Gil Brewer and so many others on the Upper West Side for tenants of a landlord that has 2,000 violations in Jackson Heights in my district and 12,000 across the city. These landlords who think that our rights as tenants mean nothing, but they're not worth more than the paper they're written on unless they're enforced in reality. Otherwise, landlords think that breaking the law is a cost of doing business. But we will not stand for that. And one thing that consumed Dr. King by the end of his life too, as we all know, was the fight for fair housing. Because we know that housing as a human right, dignified housing, can't mean anything, just mere words, if we don't find a way to make sure our housing is affordable, it is safe, and we can live with a roof over our heads. And that is the work we have to do in this city, to make sure that every tenant has a roof over their head, has working heat and hot water, that their bathrooms are working and not leaking, that housing is affordable, we can pay our rent, and we are not priced out by landlords that simply want to destroy our rent-stabilized housing and our public housing so they can gentrify our neighborhoods further. We will not stand for that. And the fierce urgency of now is as much about fighting against the racial injustice we see as it is fighting against housing injustice. Because we know if our housing is good, everything else around us, including where we live, can be good too. So we will march together for housing justice, for racial justice across our communities, and we will march together with love and with nonviolence. That is our hereditary right. Across from here, across the world, to India, to South Africa. So I want to thank you all so much for being here today. Let's continue that work. Let's fight for a city and a country that we can be proud of together. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Nan.
Council Member Crystal Hudson, followed by Council Member Brewer.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Nan. Hold on. I know it's a little late in the afternoon. Good afternoon, Nan. All right, that's better. I want to make sure that we remember the struggle that Dr. King confronted did not begin nor end with him. From the era of slavery, when human lives were treated as property and slave catchers patrolled the streets and hunted down those seeking freedom, to the Jim Crow era when segregation was codified into law, and Black Americans were told where they could eat, where they could sit, and where they could learn. When violence was often the consequence of stepping outside those boundaries. That history is not distant, it is instructive. It is not some relic of the past. It reminds us that when leaders choose caution over action, when they delay in the face of urgency, real human lives are at stake. Hesitation and measured responses are not neutral acts. They are tools that have long been used to protect those in power while prolonging the suffering of the people. But let me remind you that it was from a Birmingham jail cell that Dr. King wrote, "We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor, it must be demanded by the oppressed." His clarity feels urgent now. And today, as we reflect on his legacy, I remember him both as a voice of unity and a revolutionary, as the public advocate mentioned. Dr. King understood that freedom and justice require more than patience. They require insistence. They require confronting those in power who are slow to hear the cries of the people, those who prioritize comfort over courage. We're living at a time when those elected to serve us are too often too slow to act. They offer caution when urgency is required, invoke process when outcomes demand transformation, and insist on patience when lives are at risk. Dr. King knew this dynamic well. He understood that injustice is preserved not just through overt brutality, but through polite inaction, through the insistence that the system needs more time even as more people suffer. And he understood that when those elected to serve lag behind the moral clarity of the people, it is the people themselves who move history forward. And yet, even as we confront danger, as we witness violence and inaction, there is hope. There is hope because people refuse to be silent, because neighbors show up for one another, because communities hold leaders accountable and insist that government respond, because people organize, unionize, vote, educate, and demand that justice move faster than the systems designed to slow it down. There is hope because of the National Action Network. There is hope because of the great Reverend Sharpton. That hope is grounded in history, it's grounded in struggle, and it's grounded in what is unfolding around us right now. If we take anything from Dr. King today, let it be his insistence that freedom is not given, it is claimed. claimed through courage, through collective effort, and through a willingness to confront the moment honestly. As Dr. King reminds us, we are not makers of history, we are made by history. Never forget that the work to claim our freedom belongs to every single one of us. Thank you so much to the Reverend Al Sharpton for having me here, and to Jennifer Jones-Austin. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Gail Brewer, City Council, and I want to say a couple of things. First of all, this is such a great audience, because in this time when you are confronting the hate that comes from the White House, to be in an audience like this means everything. All the speakers before are fighters. You're fighters. Reverend Al is a fighter. The wonderful moderator right now is a fighter. That means a lot to all of us. I'm not as nice as Jumaane Williams. I do not want to be hugging the people who support the White House agenda. I know you're supposed to do that, but that is not my style. Number two, one of the things that Dr. King did was he took on those who supported Vietnam. He stood against the Vietnam War. That was a very large commitment on his behalf. And I just wonder, what would he say today when this president wants to go and take over Venezuela, Greenland, Norway, Iran, Cuba, and think of some other countries? What kind of insanity is this? And that's why it's so great to be here with you today. We are fighting for the words that we heard earlier and for the programs that provide support for those who are hungry, those who are poor, those who need jobs. And Dr. King gave us that roadmap. We need to follow it with the guts that he had. And finally, I just want to talk about those who are seeking asylum, those who are immigrants. When I go to so many schools, I see the students who are now becoming the next generation, who are sons and daughters of asylum seekers and immigrants, along with all of us New Yorkers. And I want to say that I actually went to court, and now I have young people in my house who are asylum seekers, because they deserve the same chance that all of us have in New York City. And Dr. King would say the same thing. So on every level, whether it's domestic or international, we take our roadmap from him, but boy, do we have to fight, and it is so great to fight with members of NAN, and I love Don Barber, too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Brewer. I want to thank all of you for just staying with us, hanging in with us. We've got a few more speakers, and there are a couple who've been with us since the near beginning of this program, and I just want to thank them for staying with us and hanging tight. One of them being Assemblymember Alex Boris, who will come forward, and following him, Assemblymember Micah Lasher.
Good afternoon, House of Justice. How you doing? There we go. I'm Alex Boris, Assembly Member of the 73rd District. I'm so thrilled to be here with Reverend Al, with Jennifer Jones-Austin, with the tireless board and staff, with all my esteemed colleagues, and all of you who, as Manhattan Borough President for Life, Gail Brewer, just said, y'all are fighters. Thank you for being here. Last year, and I've come to this every year that I've been elected, and I've been here on Thanksgiving, and I've been here on Christmas, I've seen all of you here, but last year, we were here on a Saturday, if y'all remember. It wasn't on MLK Day, it wasn't on Monday, it was on a Saturday. And that's because for only the second time ever, the inauguration happened on MLK Day. And I think it's fair to say, 1 year in, we have our work cut out for us. Dr. King warned us about this moment. In his letter from Birmingham jail, he wrote that the great stumbling block are those who are more devoted to order than to justice. Right, more devoted to order than to justice. That's certainly what Trump says he is. That's certainly the press that he puts out there. He's not concerned at all about justice, just he wants to be enforcing order. But I think today we're facing something entirely different. I think we have enemies, we don't face enemies devoted to order, we face extremists devoted to disorder. Not enemies devoted to order, extremists devoted to disorder, who would tear down our institutions, gut our rights, and tell us to be grateful for what remains. But Dr. King taught us that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And every day, I think maybe there are a few kinks in that arc, but still, it bends towards justice. And it doesn't bend on its own, it bends because all of us grab it and pull and yank and do the hard work to bend it towards working for all of us. And there is so much work for us to do. We have a housing crisis that priced out working families out of the neighborhoods they built and a federal government that's threatening to make it worse. We have a healthcare system where black women are still 3 times more likely to die in childbirth than white women, and where access to reproductive care is being stripped away state by state. And that same healthcare system that's not valuing the people doing the work to make us healthy and not paying the nurses their fair share. We have an economy broadly racing to automate jobs away while doing nothing to ensure that workers actually benefit from the gains. We have a criminal justice system that still, in 2026, produces outcomes better predicted by the color of one's skin than by the content of their character. And we have a so-called law enforcement agency that's been turned into a paramilitary force, grabbing our peaceful neighbors off the street based on nothing more than the color of their skin, roaming around asking them for their papers. And on top of all of that, we have a technology, artificial intelligence, being deployed without guardrails, threatening to encode the biases of the past into the infrastructure of the future. Now, Dr. King may not have experienced many algorithms, but he understood systems. Right? He didn't face algorithms, but he understood systems. And he knew that injustice, once embedded in a system, will continue to replicate itself unless we root it out. Now, Dr. King knew that there would be hard times. He said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. Well, we're in a time of challenge. We are in a time of controversy. And where we stand and what we do, that is what will define us. So I'm not here to give you comfort. I'm not here to make these times of comfort. I'm here to recommit. Recommit to the fight for housing that working families can afford, for healthcare systems that treat every patient with dignity, for a justice system worthy of that name, and of an economy that works for everyone. Dr. King may have pointed us to the promised land, but he also told us we have difficult days ahead. He was right then, he's right now. But if we keep the faith, and most importantly, we pair that faith with works, we will get there together. Thank you, House of Justice.
Good afternoon, Nan. I'm Assemblyman Michael Asher, and it is my enormous privilege to be with you today on King Day. We reflect often on the words of Dr. King about the length of the arc of the moral universe, and I want to reflect a little bit on the words that Dr. King wrote just before he wrote those famous words. He wrote, "When our nights become darker than 1,000 midnights, let us remember that there is a creative force in this universe working to pull down the gigantic mountains of evil, a power that is able to make a way out of no way and transform dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows." Well, we are in a moment right now that feels very dark indeed. We are in a moment now where the mountains of evil seem impossibly large. And the question is, what is that creative force that Dr. King spoke about? What is that power? And I would submit to you that that creative force and that power is within each of us. And it is within Dr. King's legacy. And that is what I'm reflecting on today. I was with you last year at the beginning of Black History Month, just a little bit less than 12 months ago today. And that day I announced, together with Reverend Sharpton, my colleague and friend, Assemblymember Wright, that we were going to introduce legislation in the state of New York to bring the full strength of the Fair Housing Act of 1968, passed in the wake of the murder of Dr. King. We were going to bring the full strength of that law to New York because we knew that the fascist that had just taken control of the White House, who was one of the original targets of action against housing discrimination, he was going to do everything he could to dismantle that law because he doesn't believe in the right of black people and the right of people who are disabled and the right of anyone in the society who suffers discrimination. He doesn't believe in their right to a home. We said we were going to put that law into New York State. We introduced that legislation, we passed that legislation, and in December it was signed into law by the governor of the state of New York. And so I will leave you with, because Dr. King, he was a man of justice, he was a man of faith, he was a man of God. There is a line from my tradition, the Jewish faith, from the Pirkei Avot, and it says, "It is not your obligation to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it." And so each of us, I know, each of us is committed to doing our part, to fighting to be that power, that creative force, to bend the arc of the moral universe. And I will commit myself to do my part every day, together in solidarity and love and brotherhood and sisterhood with each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I've heard many words today, but I think I'm going to hold on to it. It is not your obligation to complete the work, but you cannot abandon it, in essence. All right, we're going to stay with that. All right, we are coming to the near end of our program, but again, I can't thank enough those of you who've stayed in here with us and are holding tight, and these three individuals who remain with us who are going to bring us to a close. They are our new Manhattan Borough President, Bragg Holyman-Siegel, New York State Senator Jabari Brisport, and New York State Senator Robert Jackson, in that order.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Nan. I'm Brad Hoylman-Siegel, the 29th Manhattan Borough President. Thank you. Such an honor to be here. You know, you think about Dr. King, and today you think about service, and you think about his amazing legacy. Dr. King was someone who built a deep bench, who built a bench of leadership that stretches from the West Coast to the East Coast of this amazing nation. And we see so many of those leaders today still active. I just want to reflect on the leadership and the office that I now have the honor and privilege of holding, the office of Manhattan Borough President. The office has had many amazing black leaders. Let me just mention a few of them. Hulan Jack, 1954, the first black borough president in New York City, the highest ranking African-American municipal official in the nation. That was the Manhattan Borough President. Yes. Edward Dudley, 1961, the first black American to serve as an ambassador in the United States. That was a Manhattan Borough President. Let's think about Constance Baker Motley, 1965, first woman Manhattan Borough President, first black woman Manhattan Borough President, drew up a 7-point program for the revitalization of Harlem and East Harlem, and won a plan for hundreds of thousands of dollars to help underprivileged neighbors in this community. She was the first black federal judge as well. Incredible legacy. Percy Sutton. Who remembers Percy Sutton? Come on. 1966. Economic development, tourism, co-founded Harlem Week, spearheaded making the New York City Marathon a 5-borough race, and his legacy lives on. Let's not forget the Honorable David Dinkins. Public hearings about home care workers as borough president described their abject conditions and poverty wages. Sounds a little bit like our nurses. These hearings helped workers, largely women of color and many immigrants, eventually win major wage increases and benefits. He did that as Manhattan Borough President. Let's hear it for C. Virginia Fields. The woman almost single-handedly helped revitalize Harlem, improved our school system, redeveloped Frederick Douglas Boulevard, focused on those unmet needs in our community, and championed post 9/11 economic development. That's the legacy that I have to carry forward. That's the legacy that we've seen in leaders speaking today. My colleagues, Jabari Brisport and Robert Jackson from the New York State Senate. The legacy of passing criminal justice reforms that we need to support and continue to advance in this legislative session. The legacy of continuing to fight for fair taxing to make certain that the very wealthy pay their fair share so that those who are suffering can get the needs they desire and deserve. And the legacy of a school system that represents every child, no matter their skin color or background. And I just want to thank again Senator Robert Jackson for that historic walk from New York City to Albany to begin to redress those historic wrongs that unfortunately still live with us today in many cases. But today, as we reflect on Dr. King, we remember that he said, "The time is always right to do what is right." With a new city administration, with my colleagues behind me and those who have spoken before us, we know that that time is now, the time is right. Let us pursue justice. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, House of Justice. Good afternoon, Nan. Good afternoon, Harlem. State Senator Jabari Brisport from Brooklyn. Happy MLK Day. You know, Dr. King said we are not just the makers of history, we are made by history. And I want to acknowledge the torch that we carry on of the fights that we have been fighting since we got here. 6 years. We are 6 years out from the mass mobilizations for George Floyd, the largest mass mobilizations in our country's history. We are 13 years out from when 3 black women coined the phrase, Black Lives Matter. We are 18 years out from when we elected the first black president. We are 31 years out from the Million Man March. We are 63 years out from the I Have a Dream speech. We are 105 years out from the Tulsa Race Massacre. We are 160 years out from when the 13th Amendment abolished slavery mostly. We are 406 years out from when the first slaves were brought to America in ships. The history is long, but the work continues. And Dr. King said true peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. And he would want us to embrace radical solidarity with every fight we have today in 2026. Solidarity with the nurses on strike, solidarity with the immigrants being terrorized by ICE, solidarity with the renters who know the rent is too damn high, solidarity with the homeowners who are holding on despite the scourge of deed theft, solidarity with the parents who are worried about the price of childcare. This year we are fighting for everybody, and we are fighting against the systems that harm us. We are fighting against the imperialism that brought Europeans to the African continent 500 years ago and that continues to bring Donald Trump to Venezuela today, to Greenland today. We're fighting against the capitalism that brought black bodies here as capital and that still keeps money and power centralized in the hands of just a few wealthy white men. We're fighting for the ultimate economic justice, reparations. And we're not just gonna fight, we're gonna win. Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm State Senator Robert Jackson. People ask, well, where's that at? And I tell them where it's at. It's north of 155th Street, all of Washington Heights, Inwood, Marble Hill, and 1/3 of my district is in the Northwest Bronx. And majority in my district are Latino individuals. The bottom line is that we're fighting the good fight in order to survive in this economy. And I came here from 2 events earlier, one by Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, and then one was given packing food for Ramadan coming up in Midtown. The bottom line, I said, let me go by Nan to see if everybody's still here. And you know one thing? When I came in, you were still here wanting to hear what everyone has to say. And I said, myself is like a photographer. You constantly refocus on what you're doing so that you get a good picture. Well, this picture is loud and clear that people of Harlem, everyone that's here, is on the money and ready for fight. Fight for good services. People says, you know, what's your priorities, Senator Jackson? And I tell people there's the priorities for me is about 5 or 6 immediate things. One is to make sure that people are safe in their homes and in our communities. If we're not safe there, we're in trouble. Housing. Housing is the main issue that comes into our offices asking about all type of housing. Education. Did I say education or education? Education is so important. You know that the chancellor was here earlier listening to what was being said. Who was going to mention education? So there's obviously health is so important. This year I am on the health committee with Gustavo Rivera, but also I chair the Civil Service and Pensions Committee, which is a huge committee with respect for people that are in uniforms. Police, firefighters, all those individuals in uniform. The bottom line is, I thank you for the opportunity for me as someone can focus in on what is being said by my colleagues that are here, but also I wanted to hear from you and your reactions to everything that's going on. And with that, I say thank you, be well, take care of yourself, and know where to reach your representative. I can give you my office number if you want to say. My office number is located up in Inwood at 5030 Broadway. That's where Adriano and others had their office before me. That's the state has that office. But my phone number to our office, and I have some cards here, it's 212-544-0173. The phone number is 212-544-0173. That's my office where I work. I have 7 people working there. I have 2 people working full-time up in Albany working on legislations. We've put forward so many pieces of legislation in which a lot of them have passed, but a lot of them have been vetoed also. You know, vetoed where it passes the Assembly and the Senate, but then it goes to the governor, and the governor, for one reason or another, she vetoes the legislation. So we're constantly working on it to making sure that, one, we're going to continue, even if she vetoes it, we rise it up again and rise it again in order to make sure that we can move things. Thank you, everyone.
All right, guys, we have reached the end of our program. Oh, okay. You know, I just want to quickly share that it was mentioned that Martin Luther King Jr. holiday was established in 40 years ago, in 1986. And when I think about that, what I appreciate is that there are generations now that weren't born when Martin Luther King Jr. was living. We've got the Generation X's, the Y's, and the Z's, right? And then there are the millennials who were not born when Martin Luther King was alive. And for them, many of them, Martin Luther King Jr. was a man of service. But what we have to appreciate is that while he was a man of service, because essentially the way the schools talk about him, it was like he was serving in the soup kitchen and in the community center, and he was like doling out mashed potatoes. Martin Luther King Jr. was a man of service. But it was all about service rising up like the clarion call, that we have to be justice warriors, that we have to be revolutionaries to stand up against injustice. And so I want to thank Reverend Sharpton for bringing us together every Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, because what he does when he brings us together and we have an opportunity to engage with our elected officials is to remind them that we are revolutionaries in the spirit of Dr. King and that we are demanding justice. They come forward every year to tell us what they're doing, but we too have a responsibility to hold them accountable. So in this moment, let's thank the elected officials who come forward. We have to give them all a round of applause. Let us thank Reverend Sharpton for bringing us together and his vision. Let us thank ourselves, you all, for showing up in the spirit of God the revolutionary, of Dr. King the revolutionary. And let's go forward, pressing on. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Before you all leave,